that sound. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome to Atticus Live. Good to have you guys. Welcome to beautiful... Wow, that's a nice sunset.
I know, I didn't even look at it yet.
Welcome to beautiful Grand Cayman. And let's see, who do we have in the house today? We have...
Brad Scott, as always. He says, hello, my name is Blank, and I'm an Atticus fan.
Nice. What's up, Brad Scott? We got Navarre, Christopher Keeler, Rod737, Tudo, Douglas Deaton, Mac Kirshner, Michael Rizzo, Jim Morrison. Hey, what's up,
Hey.
brother? How's it going, man? He says he's there with my nephews, Sam, Nick, and Elijah. What's up,
Aw,
guys?
Cool. Hey, guys.
All right, who else we have there, bud?
Don Mad Dog Maddox. That's awesome.
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog. SW, Patrick Cote. I always say your name wrong, probably. Joey Adams from Chicago. We've got Nathan. I'd say farmers, bets on what it is. You are all sailors and only use money to make bets. What you guys betting on there? Flack Inshore Fishing.
Sailing SV Someday. What's up, guys?
Darwin Steve.
All right, we got Bill Shea, Aron Char.
Chad
Hello.
Saxton.
Neil Young, David Simons, Sarah Bogardus.
Arthur. I can't see that far. Arthur, SV, the Spirit Libre.
You can do it, buddy.
Badger Dog, Mark Bowers, Brian Hartley, Kim Messer. It's like playing Guitar Hero, you know, with
right.
words. William Egerton.
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Atticus Live.
Yeah.
So I got to read a little bit of the chat before the live stream started, which is really fun, actually. I like that. And just love the pre-show communication. So not everybody, but a lot of people were curious about what our change of plans has been.
Oh.
So we figure we're going to start off tonight by talking about what our new plan is, or what I should probably say is the new plan that will then be replaced soon by another plan at some point, because I feel like our plans last about 2 weeks.
I know, right?
Maybe 3 if we're lucky. It's almost embarrassing. It is basically embarrassing. But before we get into the new plan, we do want to just talk about how today we are going to be doing fundraising for the refit. So we've got the super cool hat, the Guatemalan cowboy hat.
Fundraising hat.
Desiree, do you want to just tell them how to enter into today's raffle?
Yes, to enter into our raffle, we will enter in anyone who donates $5 or more on Super Chat. Thank you, Patrick. Cheers to you.
Patrick Coate is on it.
Awesome. As well as if you send us a PayPal payment, and Dave can send you guys the link, and PayPal actually doesn't take nearly as big of a cut, as big of a cut as YouTube Super Chat does. So that actually helps us out a lot more, the PayPal. And so we'll be doing a separate drawing on PayPal as well. And we're
That's
also going to try to give shout outs to people who are giving on PayPal this time. Jordan's in charge of that.
Yeah, we are going to give shout outs. And plus, the other thing about donating on PayPal today is generally a lot fewer people donate on PayPal. And so that means that you have a much higher chance of winning the prize. And what is the prize?
What are we going to win?
Why don't we show them, Vanna Desiree?
We are going to give away a baby. No, just kidding. We're going to give away 2 Project Atticus crew t-shirts. So it has, it's a design by our patrons, and you can see it at our swag shop, but it's pretty sweet.
Cool. Okay, and then Dave in the house is here. Dave, if you wouldn't mind, you probably already have, but if you could throw up the PayPal link and kind of throw it up every now and then throughout the show, and that's how you can find our PayPal link. Okay.
And speaking of Dave, he's been our moderator since our probably our second live stream. And thank you so much, Dave. You're amazing. And
Thanks,
Dave
Dave
has his own YouTube channel. He's refitting an O'Day in Ireland. So you can watch his YouTube channel and listen to his sweet accent.
Okay, so our new plan is... Drum roll, please. Well, it's... Okay. Nice one. So the new plan is... And I know this is going to bum some people out, but I think we are now planning on not sailing back to the States.
Yeah.
I know. But we are still planning on going back to the States. We'll just probably make a couple trips flying there. So... what the deal is, and I'll try and be brief, and then Desiree can give us her input.
Oh, PayPal link is broken. Let me take a look at that.
Okay, gotcha. So people are saying that the PayPal link is not working, so our IT woman is on it.
I'm on it.
So anyway, the reason that we're not going back to the States is a couple reasons. A, it's getting late in the year, and so we're getting into hurricane season, and it's a lot of traveling to do in hurricane season. I'm more or less okay with being in an area where I've got like a hurricane plan, but if we were to sail from here the rest of the way along the south coast of Cuba, up through the Bahamas, and then up the east coast, that'd be a lot of distance we have to cover, and it'd be in hurricane season. Not to mention that we would be sailing into the hurricane zone in hurricane season, whereas we have the option to sail out of the hurricane affected zone. And that started kind of getting to us, recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really started wondering, like, is that the right choice, to sail towards, higher risk areas as opposed to towards lower risk areas. The other issue that we came up with was the amount of time that we have to do the work that we want to do. So we want to cross the Pacific next year, so it's going to be 2020, right? Yeah, that's right. Probably like spring of 2020 is when we would want to cross the Pacific. And so we've got a lot of work that we want to do before then. And we start realizing that if we're going to make it all the way to, say, North Carolina and then down to Panama, that's a lot of traveling, and it would signify a lot of time. It would just take us a lot of time to get up there and then get all the way back down. Now, that's okay if we had that amount of time, but we're starting to realize that we don't. With the amount of projects that we want to do, we're going to need, a solid probably 6 months is what we're talking about to get it all done. And so we figure if we sail to Panama from here, or if we were to go back to the Rio Dulce, both of those options would be places where we could get the work done, albeit with less convenience than in the States. But at least we would be much closer to our objective. Panama, we would literally be at our objective.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have every single second from the moment we got there till spring of next year could be get stuff done time.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we get kind of like burnt out, we can go cruise the Sandblast Islands, or we can go cruise Bocas del Toro.
Whereas if we were in Guatemala, we kind of, once we go up the Rio Dulce, we're kind of stuck in that area, and you can cruise a little bit along those like little inlets and lakes and rivers, but security-wise, they recommend that you buddy boat in that area, and so we'd be a little bit limited as far as how much exploring on the water we could do. And then Rio Dulce is kind of a difficult place to live, and it's a very bustling little city, and so there isn't much by way of nature unless you get out of that area, and it takes like 20 minutes in a colectivo, which is hot and kind of crazy. Well, more like 45 minutes. But anyways, as far as the lifestyle, when I close my eyes and think of Rio Dulce, at least where we were at the marina, at Ram Marina and the boatyard, it was kind of like concrete-y, and so that's something else we were considering. Whereas in Panama, when we get burnt out or want to have some nature, you're like right in nature. There's lots of places to walk around. And then like Jordan was saying, we don't have to stop cruising and exploring on Atticus. So yeah, something else we were thinking about. The Rio Dulce, I don't know if you touched on this at all, but the Rio Dulce has, I think, a machine shop.
Well, are we talking about pros and cons?
Yeah.
No, we haven't talked about that.
Okay.
So that's why we're not going to the States. So if you guys have any particular questions about that, shoot them at us, and then we'll try and get to them here once we're kind of done explaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pros and cons of the two places that we let me just say one other thing before we get into pros and cons, and that is that one other reason that we decided not to go back to the States was, and it's a small reason, is because one of main things we wanted to see on the south coast of Cuba was the Jardines de la Reina. And that we haven't been there yet. It's further east of where we are. So our hypothetical plan was to sail back up to Cuba and then cruise east along the coast to check out the Jardines de la Reina, which is supposed to be one of the most beautiful archipelagos in the Caribbean and even in the world, especially from a free diving standpoint. But long story short, there's this Italian company that is kind of taken the rights to diving in those islands, and they are not allowing cruisers into that area. And so we just, realized that was just one more reasons that we were going to be doing this trip that isn't going to work out. And so one more thing kind of pushing us in this direction.
Let's do some shout outs real quick. Sailing Vessel Uncensored gave us a super chat. Thank you. Cheers to you. We've got Patrick Coate. We already got him. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
We've got Mark Bowers, Matthew Smith, Sailing SV Someday. She says, "Are we still allowed to be in the hat?" Haha, yes.
You guys haven't been banned. Don't worry.
Larry Sumner. He says, "Have fun with it. Thank you very much." Ooh, nice.
Yeah, let me just... Okay, cool.
Claude Dan. Oh, Ellerby, one of our patrons. He says, "Hi, guys." Dan and Teresa. Let's see. We've got Kelly Sue LeBlanc. Sweet last name. Thank you very much. I like saying that, LeBlanc. Chris Taylor, thank you so much. He says, "Love the recent vids. Keep it up." Sweet.
All right.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. So, pros and cons of either Panama or the Rio. Well, I know I keep doing this, but there is another thing that has entered into my calculus for not going back to the States, and that is just how much of a hard time we've had getting to windward. It's actually been tough, man. It took us a long time to sail east this far from the western tip of Cuba. And so without wanting to go back to Cuba, we had considered sailing directly from here to Jamaica. And I've been keeping my eye on the weather for that, and it just did not look very good. Like, it was not going to be a fun trip. So going back to the Rio or going to Panama, the Panama looks like it'd be a beam reach pretty much the whole way, and then the Rio would be downwind. So we'd have some good sailing, and we'd be able to get to both those locations pretty quick.
But to be honest, we're still kind of deciding. We don't really know for sure if we're going to go to Honduras to receive our shipments of supplies and materials for the refit and then sail to Guatemala and do the entire refit in Guatemala, or if we're going to sail straight to Panama, receive our shipment from there, and then maybe fly home one or two. Well, actually, we will be flying to the States no matter what, because we got invited to participate in a seminar through Cruisers University, which is a really cool program run through the Sailboat Show of Annapolis. And we're going to be co-presenting with Lynn Party, who's going to be talking about what it's like to make money while you cruise. So we'll be talking about vlogging. So we decided we would love to do that anyways. So we're going to fly back for a visa run and for getting as many things from the United States back to Panama as we can. So somebody was asking, Fish7400 asks, "Are you guys planning a meetup in the States? My better half and I are huge fans. She really identifies with you, Desiree." Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, and I would love to meet you guys. So yeah, we are definitely planning a meetup at the boat show itself. And then maybe if we have time and it works out, I'd like to organize like a sale maybe. We'll see if I have time and if everything works out.
Yeah. So, and then real quick, my nephew Chris Morrison says, "Hey, Coop and Desiree, sweet hat, Christoph." Thanks, Christoph. Nice. I'm really glad that you're watching, buddy. All right, so on to the pros and cons of either the Rio or Panama.
Well, Brad Scott asks, "What's the used mast availability in all of those places?"
Yeah, good point. So that's, I guess, one of the cons of both of them as compared to the United States, which is used masts would be much less in the question than if we were going back to the States. That's not that big a deal because, I am okay with fixing the problems with the masts, especially after getting a little bit of a sense of how much, especially new spars, would cost, as well as kind of just the mission that it would be to get new used spars as well. So that's one pro for Panama, though, because Panama City, as I'm told, has really good machine shops, like top of the line machine shops.
And
so
that's probably due to the large quantity of huge boats that go through there for the Panama Canal crossing, and so they have to have really good resources for these very valued customers. So that would be an advantage that we would get on the side.
Right. And so, so that's one of the big pros of Panama, is just Panama City has almost everything that you could imagine, and from a materials standpoint. Now, it's a little bit of a drive. We'd probably be hauling out somewhere in the vicinity of Cologne, so either Shelter Bay Marina or Linton Bay Marina. A big con for Panama is they're rather expensive. They're not expensive compared to Florida prices, but compared to the Rio, they're double or triple the price. And so that's a big drawback, is the relative price is a little bit high in Panama. We can have things shipped to Panama. There's a lot of shipping that goes directly from the States to Panama, so it's not difficult to get things shipped. It just costs a decent amount of money. You have to pay for a customs agent, and they cost like $400 no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so you better be shipping a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we were to go to the Rio, we would ship things to Roatan in Honduras, and that doesn't cost very much at all. They ship directly from Miami to Roatan, and there's some, it's just a really good deal.
Right, and even though you're paying for your import taxes, you don't have to pay an agent to help you be duty free, which turns out not being anything because you have to pay for an agent.
Yeah. Brad Scott says, I think you could trim 6 inches off your mast to get rid of the cracks and re-step them. Mm-hmm. Let the lewd comments begin. and I agree. So Brad Scott's comment is basically where I'm at, is I started realizing that, going back to the States would mean going backwards a long ways just to get new spars, whereas I've really started thinking, as long as we have access to good machine shops, we can get new steps made and new boots made, or shoe, I guess is what it's called, new shoes made, and then just cut the lower portion off both the masts. So definitely what we're thinking about doing.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're both leaning towards Panama, even though the shipping would be more expensive and a little bit more difficult.
The shipping would be more expensive, and the boatyard and marina would be more expensive.
Yeah.
The thing about Panama, though, is that it seems like there in Linton Bay especially, you can anchor out, and it's a nice anchorage. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the Rio, you don't really want to stay anchored out. There's a decent amount of petty theft there, so everyone gets a marina kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not true of everybody. But the marinas are a lot cheaper. So it's kind of like one of those back and forth things where in Panama I'd be fine staying out at anchor for longer, but when we were in the marina or when we were in the yard, it would be a lot more expensive.
But I also like Panama because we'd be right there. So we would really, really mitigate our risk of not crossing.
Yeah, and I think that was, wouldn't you say that's sort of the key to our decision?
Yeah. Is
that we started realizing that if our real goal is to cross the Pacific next year, then going back to the States would be risky. Whereas going to the Rio, it's not that far to get to Panama. The problem is you need a good weather window, because you need to go from the Rio to the Bay Islands, and then from the Bay Islands you got to go way out around the Nicaraguan bank. Mm-hmm. And you got to go really far, because I was looking at some of those piracy reports, and there's ships that have been hit 100 miles off the coast of Nicaragua. So if you want to be safe, you got to go more than 100 miles off the coast before you can turn south. Mm-hmm. So you need a really good weather window to sail that far east, due east. So that's why we're thinking man, we could sail more or less due south, be more than 100 miles off of Nicaragua, and make it to Panama in a week or two. Mm-hmm. And we're just that. That's hard to pass up, because just our experience theoretically saying to get from point A to point B, we could do it in X amount of time, and it almost always takes us 3 times as long.
Yeah.
So
got some good questions that we've been missing. Dean Knudsen or Knudsen says, how often do you trail a fishing line while cruising?
Whenever I've got the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the time, like, we just got too much going on, or I'm feeling a little seasick or whatever.
Right.
But
yeah.
if we're not feeling bad and we've got the time, then we try to.
Yeah, when we're kind of like day sailing a lot for fun, and like our watches are a little bit loose, then sometimes we'll throw out a line. But we don't do it as much as we probably should. But we also really enjoy spearfishing, so at least we get to do that.
Yeah. Real quick, Kim Messer says, done on PayPal. Thank you.
Aw, thank you.
And she says, I just bought a Sailrite machine today. Gonna be
Cool.
like Desiree.
Oh, yay! Congratulations. You will not regret it. I am in
Nice.
love with my Sailrite. Seriously. Let's see. Warp 21 Drive says, you can get a short section of mast and then sleeve the inside with a slightly cut down version of the same section. No changes to rigging. Warren.
Can you say that
Yeah,
again?
he says you can get a short section of the mast and then sleeve the inside with a slightly cut down version of the same section.
Yeah. That's definitely one option. The issue being that the area that we would cut is so low that it might just make sense to beef up the deck step itself rather than put a sleeve into the mast. But great point. It may be exactly what we end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did want to say real quick, Hannah Steele says if you guys decide to ever do a meetup, I would love to travel to wherever you guys may be.
Cool.
And so as of right now, the one thing that we can say is that we will be at the Annapolis Boat Show.
In October. And
in fact, we will be... And now this is the sailboat show specifically. Yeah. And if you want to find us, you can find us at Lynn Party's booth. How cool is that?
Yeah, and she's in the Cruisers University section, so that's a whole nother part of the boat show.
Oh, really? Her booth is not in.
Yeah, there's
the boat show
like an entity called Cruisers University, and I think they're all together, and that's where they do cool seminars about like weather forecasting and diesel mechanics and sewing. Sailrite's going to be there, and hopefully I'm going to be working with them to do a seminar with them. So that's where we'll be. Ask for Cruisers University and Lynn Party.
Yeah,
and we get to meet Lynn Party.
I'm so
excited.
Stoked.
I'm gonna like puke on her.
Yeah, I hope not. But here is a really good question I do want to answer too, and it's a quick one. SW says, boat question: if the tiller were to break, hope not, how do you get the rudder linkage? How do you get to the rudder linkage if a problem happens on your boat? Our rudder and tiller setup is so straightforward that if you had something break, I couldn't imagine fixing it, right? Like, it's just so strong and simple that if it were to break anywhere, it would be beyond immediate repair, I would imagine. Like, there's a chance that the tiller would snap in half, but I seriously doubt it. It would probably occur where the ears connect the tiller to the rudder, which would mean that there's just no jerry-rigging that rudder at sea. What I would do is I would get some kind of a warp that we would trail aft. I don't know what it would be, maybe a sail in its bag, maybe some jerry jugs. I'd have to think about what. Throw something overboard, and then tie it to lines that go both to the starboard winch and the port winch. And then you can steer by pulling one or the other, and the resistance goes more to the starboard side or more to the port side. That's what I would do in the event of rudder failure.
Where did you learn about that?
I read a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Cool. Nice having you around, bud.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's what I would do. But again, that's because we have the tiller rudder setup that we have, right? Like, it would... you would have to have a catastrophic rudder failure for it to break, basically, which is why I like the tiller setup.
Got another question from Badger Dog. He says, do you get creeped out sometimes out on the ocean? And I'm assuming you're talking about creeped out from other people?
Or me.
Yeah.
I can
Jordan
be
gets
kind of
super
creepy.
creepy.
I can be pretty
dude,
creepy.
Give me some space.
It's actually kind of a running joke, though, to like see who can like weird out the other person more.
I always win.
Desiree almost always wins, but every now and then I can weird her out.
That's true.
You know, beyond her point of recovery.
Yeah, we'll shake your hand and we'll move on until the next time. Yes, I get creeped out all the time. as soon as we get what I like to call birthday bars, they're just going to be security bars for our companionway and for our forward hatch, I'll feel a lot better. Because right now, when we're underway and when we're at anchor, we basically leave our companionway open. So if someone were to try and come aboard and steal something, there's nothing keeping them from coming inside the cabin. So it's very rare, and we handle it by making sure we're not in areas that have high levels of petty theft. And then when we're sailing, we make sure we try to avoid areas of high piracy. And haven't had any issues yet, but I still have a hard time sleeping at night, or when we're when we're doing a passage near areas that have some piracy. So from going to Guatemala to Honduras, for example, we sailed way out of the way to get as far off the coast of Honduras as we could to avoid an area that had reported levels of piracy in the past 10 years or so. And I was freaked out. And then as we're sailing from here to Providencia and then to Panama, there have been some reports of piracy as close as 100 miles off the coast of Nicaragua. So I told Jordan, I was like, as far as you think we need to go that way, double it.
Yeah, that's a cute way of putting it.
Yeah.
Actually, she was like, if we get boarded by pirates, you're never planning another passage ever. I was like, okay.
I did say that.
Cool out, buddy. But yeah, so it is definitely high on the priority list that we don't get boarded by pirates. Yeah, so we are talking about making sure that I'm looking at it, and we're a good clip from Nicaragua, which is good because even a small course adjustment can result in a large distance away from Nicaragua. And so it's looking like we could probably make it so that we're like 130, 140 miles off the coast, which, like we're saying, the very farthest reported piracy issue was 100 miles off the coast. So we'd be 40 miles away from that, which should be.
And I might keep on putting the autopilot or wind vane.
I know.
That way.
I'll be like asleep. I'll be like, why are we close hauled? You know what I mean?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're
Close your
sailing
pretty
for
eyes.
Trinidad. Yeah. Real quick. Oh, and I did want to add to that question though. Do you ever feel creeped out? I still feel creeped out when we're like in the middle of the ocean sometimes. Like, I'll kind of like get up on watch and look around and just have that moment where you're like, oh God, like you're just so alone, you know? Like if the weather gets bad, if something breaks, like you're so exposed, you know? I feel like the feeling I imagine someone has like on the top of like a mountain or something, you know? Like where it's just you're very, very exposed and very, very alone, you know? But vulnerable. But I think that's the source of what makes it feel cool as well. Because like when you kind of like internalize that feeling and say you can do this, and like you kind of just power through, that really is the source of a lot of the joy too.
And I feel like I experienced that very, very a lot less than Jordan, because I know that he's gonna handle any situation if things go wrong.
That's hilarious.
Like if something happens, I'm just like so that's good and bad, because if something were to happen to Jordan, then I'd need to handle stuff on my own. So I need to get a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
But
real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
But I don't have that creeped out feeling nearly as much as Jordan probably does.
Yeah. Real quick, our buddy Rob S is in the house. What's up, Rob S?
Hey, Rob S.
And then Warren Warp 21 Drive says you could steer with balancing the sails and the mizzen too. Trailing warps rarely works. Cheers, Warren. So good to know. Never tried the trailing warps trick, so I would bet you that a combination of the two would probably be, you know, pretty helpful. But yes, and we got a lot of comments saying use your mizzen to steer, and absolutely, the mizzen can be really useful for kind of adjusting your heading under sail.
We missed a lot of super chats, so let's do a couple of shout outs. We got AJ Argema says, don't spend it all in one place.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Hannah Steele says, do you feel like cruising has made your relationship stronger as a couple? Yeah, we definitely have to figure out ways to bring the anger down and work together. And we're very in tune with each other. So yeah, I think we're very close. It's hard not to be on a 30-foot boat and running a company together. So, yeah, definitely. Stephen Sheard, thank you very much.
Cheers.
From New Zealand. Bill Shea says, was hoping to see you, but maybe next time. And then Stephen Sheard again. He says, oops, here's some more. If you make it to New Zealand, we will show you some hospitality. That sounds amazing. Thank you very much.
Cheers, amigo.
And actually, we were thinking about, speaking of baby talk, we were kind of like, so when should we do this? And we were thinking maybe New Zealand. I need to stop saying that. New Zealand would be a good place to do it.
Right. Well, that's actually an interesting topic, and it'd be something that will kind of blend into what we were going to talk about later, which was like the realities of, running a YouTube sailing channel.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking at Sailing Le Vagabond and Riley and Elena, how, what they did, the whole have the baby, like, in the States. Well, I believe I actually don't even know if they had the baby in the States, but they have access to Florida, and then they're creating content and kind of cruising the Bahamas while, like, the baby's tiny. And we were talking, like, that would be the ideal scenario. Have some sort of first world country where you have medical stuff, a place where you can do the whole baby medical thing, and then have the baby there, and then have some sort of, like, cruising ground nearby so that we could, for the most part, not have to stop cruising, but just be able to do very easy cruising. And so if you guys have any ideas, give us a shout. We were talking about maybe like Australia, New Zealand could be that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Stephen, if you know of any places where the sailing is good, there's nice little areas to hang out for a year or two. Year sounds good to me. 2 years too much.
And everyone's telling us Elena had her baby in Australia.
Oh,
gotcha.
cool.
So there you go.
Oh, okay.
So they're just using Florida as a, well, I'm not going to speak for them, but I would imagine if I were them, I would feel pretty comfortable in the Bahamas because you're hop, skip, and a jump away from Florida.
Right. Would you mind getting the PayPal names so we can also thank them while I thank a couple of our super chatters? Okay, we've got still Bill Shea again. He says, still trying to outsmart this program. Awesome. Claude Dan Ellerby. Wow, $100. Thank you so much. That's so awesome.
Cheers, Claude.
Yay. And then R. Kramer 3 says, Royal Kramer here. Sorry to hear you guys aren't coming to North Carolina for the refit. I was going to offer you free labor if you were coming to Oriental. I have skills. No!
I know. Bummer, buddy. I'm sorry.
That's so sad. Well, we're bummed out too. What kind of skills do you have? I'm just curious. We are still looking for a rigger who we can talk to about some of our mast issues. I just lost my spot, so I'm going to have to... Okay, there we go. Robert Clark, thank you very much. Cheers to you. And Dan Ellerby again. He says, Dan and Teresa, spend that money in Atticus. Trust me, we will. Sailing the Mystic says 8D. Eric Jones says, good luck from SV Aventura and Eric and Brian Jones. Thank you very much. Oh, and he sent us a PayPal donation too. Thank you very much. That is so awesome.
And I'm up and running with our PayPal.
Yeah.
We got a lot, so we got to go.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a question. RJ Salty Adventures asks, how often do you use a preventer on your boom? And pretty much whenever we're going downwind, we set up our preventer. So pretty often.
Yeah, if we're going deeper than a beam reach, we put the preventer on. And luckily, our preventer isn't that hard to set up. And so that's kind of the core philosophy, is if it's hard to set up, you don't use it that much. If it's easy, you use it a lot, kind of thing. We use it anytime we're underway and we know that we're going to be deeper than a reach for more than like 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or, I mean, sometimes we do use it for like 10 minutes if we need to like be on deck doing something, and it's important that we don't jibe.
Estrella Del Mar says that hat is a bit creepy. I said, I am pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pretty creepy dude, you know?
Do you know what
I should just like sit, Desiree, you can do the rest of the live stream, and I'll just be over here. I'll just do this the rest of the time. Just be like...
Nice. That's pretty good, buddy. You just look weird. You gotta get creepier. Yeah. That's creepy. That's super creepy, buddy. Oh gosh, I just lost where it was.
Sorry. We're going off the rails.
I know. David Daly says, adore you both, so inspiring and authentic. Thank you for working so hard on such meaningful content. Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you, David. Let's see. Chad Saxton. He says, PayPal and Super Chat, mostly for better chances at swag. Nice. Also, fly to Seattle. I'll sail you around. It's gorgeous in the Pacific North, dub, PNW. I want to go there so bad. There's a yacht that I used to work on over there called Daedalus, and they are trying to hire me over there, and it was tempting. So we would love to take you up on that someday. Let's see, another question. Hannah Steele asks, do you feel like 30 feet is big enough? That's you.
Yeah, that's like such a great, simple question. I think that 30 feet can be big enough. The question is, what are your requirements? I mean, what's your situation? Because I could imagine if you had a family of a certain size, 30 feet would get really difficult. 30 feet is a challenge for us, but it's a challenge that we're more than willing to take on. And so for a couple, I think it's totally enough. And it's sort of like, it reminds me of the reason that we're going to Panama, or that we'll probably end up going to Panama, is we realize that going to Panama now gives us the highest chance probability that we'll actually cross the Pacific. That's also how I feel about boat size. Like, the smaller the boat, the higher the probability that you will successfully cruise. Because of the people that I've seen want to cruise and, I mean, fail, for lack of a kinder term, it was because it was too expensive for one reason or another to get it going. And most of the time that was because the boat was bigger than it needed to be.
And then once they get going, keeping it maintained, that's also a big challenge.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge for us, obviously. But it's one that is manageable for our needs and for our finances.
But that said, like, unlike, say, Lynn and Larry Party, who went their entire sailing career under 30 feet, I plan on having a boat bigger than 30 feet. I think we both do. Not in the near future necessarily, but I think it is a goal of ours, specifically because we'd like to have, I mean, I think we both agree we'd like to have 2 kids, ideally, and it would be tough to have the 2 of us and 2, like, you know...
2 little girls.
2 little girls, you know, on a 30-footer. So, you know, I'm super flexible about at what point 30 feet is too small. Shoot, I would say for a lot of people who have grown accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle, 30 feet is probably too small. That's why we always push, like, go for the smallest boat that you feel comfortable with, right? And the fact is we can live in this thing and enjoy it and feel comfortable here. And because of that, like, our chances of success are a lot higher than if we had a bigger boat. And that's why we were able to, like, get away with leaving the States with hardly any money and then making money by fiberglassing and sewing, right? I mean, just taking these super ballsy moves, we could do that because our overhead could be really low because the boat's small.
Dennis Parrott asks, if you had to do it again, would you go for the same type of sailboat?
Well... See, I know people don't like this, but if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't go for a cutter. But
Ketch.
I'm sorry, I probably wouldn't go for a ketch. But that's partially because of our specific issues. Like, it would be nice if we had more solar.
Brad Scott says, never reef the hat. And then Matthew Smith says, reefer hat.
Reefer hat. That's great. This is the reefer hat.
Leave it to Brad to keep those conversations rolling.
Rock on, Brad. So anyway, I shouldn't go too into that. I mean, anything else that we would change about ACUS? I mean, we find ourselves saying things like, well, we should have gone for, like, a Southern Cross 31 or, like, even, like, a West Sail 32. But that's just a grass is always greener kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so.
You know what I mean?
Or the water's always bluer.
Yeah, it really is. Because if we had gotten those, we would have said, like, oh, maybe like a Hans Christian 33, you know?
Yeah, basically,
So-
like, Atticus sails really, really well.
Yeah.
And she's pretty fast for for how small she is. So there are a lot of times when I'm like, man, this is a good boat. Some other times I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had my own little room.
Yeah, every now and then we walk on someone else's boat to like have drinks or sundowners, and we look down below and we're like,
yeah,
that's really nice.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas like you look down, like when people come check out Atticus, they look down, they're like,
yeah, they're like, can we have a tour of your boat? I'm like, yeah, just stand right there and look in.
yeah, that's it. That's right. That's it. So it's like, you know, in that regard, yeah, I mean, a 32, for instance, like an Allied Seawind 2, right? The 32-footer. That boat has a lot of the same sailing properties as Atticus does, but just more space. But it's significantly more expensive, and everything about it would be more. So,
but it looks nice down below.
I'm willing to cut it right there and say, nope, that's a grass is always greener concept. So Desiree's not so sure.
I would have liked the Allied Seawind 2 maybe.
But we didn't know that we were gonna be at all successful, right? Like we thought we were gonna we thought we were taking a vow of poverty, like straight up. And we don't have a lot of money, but like I wouldn't say we're impoverished anymore, which is good.
Chris Lawley says, if you went bigger, what size would you go? 35 to 38 feet. For me, I keep telling Jordan, like, my limit's like 35, I think. Like, if we can find a really well-built, good cruising boat that's like 35 feet, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and my tentative rule is if I found a good deal on like a Tiana 37, I might take it. And so for that reason alone, I say 37 feet is my max. But if you take the Tiana 37 out of the equation, I would say 36 feet would be the biggest I would consider, and that would be on the high end.
Yeah. So one thing we wanted to do in this live stream was talk a little bit about what it's like to have a YouTube sailing channel, and so we've got a couple of questions along that topic, so I'll go ahead and shoot them at you guys. If you have other questions about just what it's like to have a YouTube channel, let us know. And then we've got some questions from Lynn Party also that we're going to answer in our seminar. So Harry Cash asks, what is your background in video and internet technology?
Well, my background is I went to film school. So a lot of you guys may not be aware of that. I went to San Diego State University and studied film there. And I wouldn't go as far as to say it gives me a huge leg up. You know, I'd say what gives me a huge leg up has been just my general interest in the field.
Well, also you started with that baseline of editing, like second nature.
Yeah, that I didn't have to go through that process of like sailing and learning how to edit. Like I did know how to edit, and so that helped us.
And then you've also gotten really fast at it. Like Jordan has a special keyboard and a special mouse for editing, and so like you should see him edit. It's really cool. I'm like, do this, do that, thank you, put that there, and I'm like, no, do this, do that, and then he taught me how to assemble the footage, and I'm like, oh my god, how do you do this?
Yeah. It has been fun because doing this so much now for over a year, my editing is getting really fast. But yeah, that's the I did film, but and you had never really done any video stuff before.
No, but I'll answer for myself.
Oh, sorry.
And so I came from a background where I worked in startups in the Silicon Valley, so I had a lot of experience like with marketing and online community building, things like that. So, and then I actually had I ran a Kickstarter campaign for a little project I did with my company back there. And then we did use a lot of video in Grubbly, our business over there in California. It wasn't very good video, but we tried. So yeah, I think we were both coming at it with skills that would help us figure out YouTube. But YouTube is like this mysterious, crazy, finicky beast that we've been trying to figure out for a long time, and sometimes it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Real quick, we got a couple comments that are right in line with these questions.
Perfect.
Eric Jones says, how much time does it take to edit an episode? And we've got that down pretty scientific now. It takes Desiree 1 to 2 days to assemble the footage. And that's everything from taking, just the raw footage, organizing it into events, and then basically laying out all of the usable clips onto a timeline. And then at that point, she hands it over to me, and it takes me a solid 2 days. If I have a solid 2 days of work on it, I can almost always bang it out. It might be a little bit more than that sometimes.
And then after that, it takes me about half a day to upload it to YouTube and Facebook and Patreon, and schedule all those posts and write the description and the tags and all that stuff. So it takes us 3.5, 4 days to edit.
Of man time.
Of man time,
But like ultimately, it's basically 2 days of both of us working per episode.
Right.
Another way of looking at that is if we want to cruise for 3 weeks, say, we need to like work our tails off for 2 weeks editing. If we're not going to work our tails off, if we're just going to do the normal 9 to 5, 5 day a week thing, then it's kind of like 2 weeks of editing gets us maybe getting to 3 weeks of cruising time.
So for example,
it's almost 50-50.
So for example, we spent a lot of time cruising and having fun in Cuba, but we were caught up on episodes. So then we came to the Cayman Islands, and we've been here for 3 weeks now.
Coming up on 3 weeks.
And we've pretty much...
we haven't done anything
We've just
fun.
been anchored in this, like, in rich people's backyards, literally, like, every single day, not doing anything but this.
Dude, we get the weirdest looks from like these really like wealthy boats that go by us because we're in the most protected anchorage in Grand Cayman, but there's like no reason that a cruiser would be here. Like there's nothing cool around here. There's no reef, there's no snorkeling, there's just nothing around here. It's just real protected and like stable. And we've been here for like 2 weeks now, and so we're just surrounded by like mansions basically. And these boats will go by, and they're just staring at us like, what is going on with these people?
The fun's out there. Why are they in here?
Yeah. Well, it's like this, 30-foot boat anchored around these multi-million-dollar homes. They're like, what are these people? Are they going to rob me or what?
Yeah, so that's what we've been doing. Got some other great questions. We both edit on PCs. And that's, I'll let Jordan talk about that a little bit, but we basically priced out what we'd need on a Mac and what we need on a PC, and you found like a really high-tech gaming computer that was like $1,000.
My computer, it's an MSI, but it's a rebuild, so I can't remember what the company name was, but basically you can find like third-party companies that take like standard just okay computers and then put all the really good stuff in them and then resell those, and they're not actually that expensive because when you buy an expensive computer, you're buying fancy stuff. You're buying like a thumb scanner and then you're buying like a really nice display, and you're buying the sound system, and I mean it's just a lot of stuff, even like the design of the chassis, whereas if you go with these like bare bones computers that have been amped up, then you get all that processing power but not a lot of the cost. Turns out that's exactly what like 14-year-old gamers want, right? Like they've got no money, but they need these like incredibly strong machines. And so gaming computers are often the best for that.
And that's been pretty great for us. And then RJ Salty Adventures asks, and this is related to working and sailing, but before we started our Patreon account and started trying to become full-time video creators, we were making money by doing boat work for other people. And he said, speaking of your time in Isla Mujeres, was it difficult to get a work permit for the time you were there? And to get a work permit in Isla Mujeres, I think it cost about $3,000 if we priced it out per person.
I can't remember because you have to get your residency too.
Right. It's
a lot of stuff, and it really involves paying a lawyer to kind of like grease the wheels and just kind of making everything happen.
Right. So basically, we did everything for cruisers. We tried not to take any jobs that were for, that would be competing with locals. And so we kind of considered it a gray area.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Legally, so we didn't have permits, we worked through PayPal and cash.
Yeah. And I would like to feel that we actually created jobs in that market, in the local economy there, because people that we were working for, most of the time they wouldn't have gotten that job done there if we weren't there, right? Because the guys that worked in Isla Mujeres, they didn't do a lot of yacht work. They worked on like the local pangas and stuff, so they didn't work at like a yacht level of kind of finish, you would say. And so because John and I were there, you had boaters that were like, oh, I was going to go to Fort Lauderdale to do this, but like I'll do it here. And then we would employ locals to kind of do a lot of the work, but like we would be telling them like, all right, like this needs to be smoother, and they look at us like, you're kidding me. And we're like, it needs to be real smooth. You know, like they thought we were insane, you know. And so,
but it was cool because you kind of became the crew in the boatyard that was like doing things the yacht way. And
right.
So a lot of the skills that you and John were emphasizing, the other guys in the boatyard started picking up on and doing them. So that was kind of cool.
That's true. It was definitely the operation we had going on was a highly respected operation among the
and since
workers
then
there.
the guy that Jordan used to work with, he's become totally legal. So now he's got an incorporation.
Yep.
And then he has official Mexican employees, and he and his wife run their business, and they have a shop and everything. So it's totally legit. If we went back, we'd probably work as employees.
Yeah, potentially. Real quick, Goulash75 asks, how often do you feel like you just can't be bothered filming today? And it happens a lot. Yeah. and it's just the kind of thing where filming makes anything take twice as long, but it also makes it take 50% more mental effort, if not twice as much mental effort. And that's the kicker, right? It's just like, man, I don't want to go through that, and right.
So for provisioning, for example, especially when we're getting the boat ready for a passage or something, it's already physically exhausting and mentally exhausting, but then you have to kind of plan out your shots and kind of think ahead of time. Because one problem with having so much footage is I'm the assembler, so I go through all of our footage. Everything that we filmed, I look at, and I see if it's worth Jordan putting in an episode. And so if we have 7 shots of a sunset, I start getting angry because I'm like, we only need 1 shot of the sunset. This shouldn't be happening, And so that goes for when we're doing the work as well. If it takes us so much longer to film going ashore and provisioning, we have to find a balance of enough time where it's worth it to stick it in an episode, but not enough time where it's just taking away from actually getting stuff done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Real quick, want to give out a shout out to Doug Cole. He's asking if we're enjoying our Keens.
Yeah,
we are
Doug,
really
yes.
enjoying our Keens. So thank you very much, Doug.
I am down to 1 pair of shoes, and it's these Keens. Doug sent us 2 pairs of Keens. And I was like the coolest kid in the marina with these fancy sandals. They were awesome. They're I think they were called Rose. They were the Keens that got away. Anyways, the second day they got stolen off the dock. And I am super paranoid about leaving things out. And I remember telling myself, don't be ridiculous. Nobody's going to take your shoes from the dock. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like,
and someone to take.
But have you seen my flip-flop, my shoes? They're gone. And then I talked to the marina owner and he's like, yes. I said, do you have any problems with theft here? And he says, no problems except shoes. And I was like, are you kidding me?
He's like, my shoes were stolen once. So anyway, thank you, Doug.
Thank you very much.
Good question. Indy in the Dark asks, how much power do your laptops draw? Is that ever a problem with editing?
Yes.
And in fact, it's probably the biggest problem with editing, aside from just the raw shortage of space that we have to work with. That's probably our largest issue, is just having to deal with a small space, both being in there. But power can be a big concern. Now with the new solar panel setup, it's working really, really well. On a sunny day, we have no problems. It'll keep up with both Desiree and I on our computers all day. The problem is when we get a cloud or when it's an overcast morning. And so it's so funny because we've got these little inverters that you plug into a 12-volt outlet, and you can hear the fans whirring in them. And if we don't get enough voltage to run the inverter, the fan RPMs bump up because there's not as much load on the inverter itself. And so anyway, I'll be like editing away, and then I'll just hear that fan go, and it happens every time like there's clouds that come over. So a cloud comes over and I'm like, damn it. And so it's literally like I'm hoping for sun so we can keep editing. That's not really the case. If that happens enough, I'll turn the engine on. And that's what we used to do, is we would just run the engine almost all day. So it's definitely a big issue. And so that's one of the big reasons why I've been saying like our next boat won't be a catch, so that we can have a lot of solar, so that we just never have power issues like that. So yeah, definitely an issue. And then there was one other question that I really liked. They were
Is
asking,
it Chris Brown? Do you feel you are working as hard?
Yeah.
Chris Brown says, do you feel you are working as hard, not as hard, or harder for your money since you changed from boat work to YouTube full-time?
I mean, what do you think?
I'd say either just as hard or harder.
I would not say harder.
Yeah, just as hard.
Because the work itself is so much easier.
That's true. At least we're not in the sun just like grinding fiberglass all day.
Yeah.
Because I do that all the time.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, maybe sewing is easier.
Hey, if I don't have a studio, it's a bitch.
Yeah. But no, the fiberglassing is tough work. And so for that reason, I would say YouTube is probably easier. But it's like, a lot of you probably kind of have been in the same place where like manual labor is physically difficult, but like it's mentally not that difficult, right? Like, so you show up to work, it's physically uncomfortable, physically demanding. You get off work and then you're just done, and you just kind of like do your thing and enjoy yourself. YouTube, it's like there's no end to it. Like we're constantly worrying and thinking about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. It's like it's definitely not an 8-hour-a-day job. And
it's a lot of hours.
Yeah, and so for that reason, it's like kind of neck and neck, but I mean at the same time, fiberglassing sucks.
Yeah.
So I would say we work just as hard, but the work is easier.
Yeah, because at least
sense?
we're not in the sun. We're not like physically, what's the word? Just physically
uncomfortable.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. All right, I want to get to some super chats that we missed. Billy Newport says, good luck. Thank you very much. I'm out of wine. That was my last bottle of wine. So cheers to you.
Now we got to buy like a $16 bottle of wine at the liquor store here. Things are expensive in the Grand
Keith
Canyon.
White says, love the decision, stay safe, and enjoy what the world has to offer. Awesome. Thank you very much. Stephen Mack, thank you so much. Stephen Chase. We got Hannah Steele. She says, okay, everyone is tipping big, so I have to join in. Awesome. Thanks,
Cheers,
Hannah. Great questions today, by the way, Hannah. Kelly Sue LeBlanc, again. I love saying that last name. And again, thank you very much. Twice. SV Brujo says, I'm just south of Annapolis. I'm getting a slip reservation for the show and looking at CU. Party time. Live on the bay. Best way to send a message. Oh, awesome. We would definitely love to meet up with you. Just send us a message on our email, which is des@projectatticus.com. And then...
Real quick, go ahead and get collected. But we got a couple people, John Messines, as well as Chicken Patty Fries.
Oh, cool. Hey, guys.
Yeah, hey, guys. They are asking, does your wind generator no longer work? It does. And so, don't get me wrong, when it's windy and there's not a lot of wind and there's not a lot of sun, then our batteries stay topped up as well. Actually, and I'm just going to do this real quick, but with regard to that issue, I actually need to make a higher gauge wire that runs to our outlets because we're getting a little bit too much voltage drop to our outlets, and so our inverters aren't getting the voltage that they need, even when the batteries are relatively topped up. So the issue becomes our batteries need to be like quite topped up in order for the inverters to run at the moment. And so that's one of the reasons why we need a lot of sun. So the the wind generator does a good job, but it doesn't create a consistently high voltage that's able to overcome that voltage drop in the wire.
Oh, and Annalise Burr says, thanks for sharing your story. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Stephen K. Oh, sorry, there was one that I really liked. Sorry. Oh, Jeff Erdman says, I've noticed many YouTube channels are using much better music. Has something changed in regard to usable music?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, that's a great question. And I would go as far as to say that the improvements in videos on YouTube in general, a lot of those have come from technological changes and changes in the available services to video creators. And so music is one of those things. But even like live streams, I mean, there's so much that has changed outside of the pure ability of the video makers, right? And so what we use is a service called Epidemic Sound, which I think it's epidemicsound.com. Mm-hmm. If you search Epidemic Sound on Google, you'll get it. It's a big service. Almost everybody uses it. All the ceiling channels that I know use it. And you pay a monthly fee. That monthly fee is based on the number of subscribers that you have, which is a cool system, right? Because when you start out, you can still use the same music as the big guys, but the big guys are paying, most of that money, and the small people are paying very little of it. The catch is that once you use their music, you have to have an active membership for your backlog videos to legally use that music. So once you're in the system, you're hooked, and you can never lose that membership. And so if you do become one of those big channels, now you're stuck with that big bill, footing that big bill. But I'm not complaining, because the music is amazing, mm-hmm. and it's getting better.
Yeah.
Even in the last year, like, the music that was available there was just okay, mm-hmm. and now, like, some of it's just darn right, like, really, really cool music.
And something else that's I've noticed as we've gotten more and more subscribers, more musicians will get in touch with me via email and just say, hey, you can use my music without having to pay me royalties, here are my terms. And it's usually just like a shout out or something like that. And so a lot more, the bigger we've gotten, the better music we've gotten through email as well. I'm using this new interface, and I missed a bunch of super chats, so I'm sorry if I haven't said your name, but I'm still trying to figure out this stupid interface. YouTube has changed a lot. Sailing Kukuma says, Hawaii to Alaska next week. Cool! Then on to Panama. Well, maybe we'll see you there. That would be awesome. And you guys are taking on some crew. Is that right? Are you guys excited about that? SV Spirit Libre says, if you come back to Florida, let me know. Would love to take you out sailing. I have to have my Vindo 50 catch up and running soon. Not commenting much tonight as I am working on a client's boat still. All right, gotcha. Well, we will definitely let you know if we make it to Florida. And good luck with the refit or the client's boat. Somebody said, Stacy DePaolo, PayPal and Super Chat. You guys are awesome. Love watching you. Thank you so much. Oh, can you get the PayPal already?
Yeah, I got them ready. There's a lot. So, do you want me to go through them?
Qbeard 1. Oh, gosh, I missed a lot, too. Brett Johnson says, keep up the adventure buds.
Hey, Brett.
Doug Cole says, I hope y'all are enjoying your Keens. Oh, we got that already. Levon Young, cool name. Great show, he says. Ralph Field says, cheers. And I think Annalise Burr. Oh, yes. Well, I think I already got to you. I remember thinking you have a really pretty name. Thanks for sharing your story. Your guys are awesome. Bill Shea. One more shot at the drawing. Awesome. And, okay, now I'm caught up. Phew. How many PayPals do you have there, bud?
I've got a lot, and then, of course, it just signed me out. Yeah.
All right, well, why don't I start with the Super Chat drawing? How about that while you get the PayPal ready?
Okay, cool. Let's do that.
How do I get to the Super Chat list of?
Here, if you just think everybody that's on, you'll see it gets to tomorrow's date. Just gotcha. Everybody before tomorrow's date. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. All right, we've got Tracy Utreras, Duncan Hughes, Michael Quinn, John Kenyon, Robert McPherson, Warren Dromes, Pinnacle Peak Pie Company. Nice. Now I'm hungry. Stacy DePaolo again. Douglas Sprague. Stephen Olette. Robert Nelson. Awesome. Smart Services Inc. Christopher Brown. Bob Cumberledge. DSO Technologies. Brett Vietz, Dietmar Dombowski. Gosh, I'm butchering these names. Clay Wilby, Julia Clark, Kelly Sue LeBlanc. Love saying that name. John Souter, Wayne Payne, Paul McCormick, Sales Success Consulting, Brad Scott, Kimberly Messer, Jacobian Engineering Inc., Stephen Garneau, Keith Marlowe, Warren Drome, Stuart Ard, Fong Do. Oh boy. Mark Maurer. I'm so bad at this. Let's go ahead and answer one question to keep the conversation going a little bit. I had some questions from people on Facebook. David Chisholm asked us, how much does it cost you to live and operate each month? And we pretty much try to manage on a budget of about $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
We are in the Cayman Islands right now, so we pretty much used all of our budget being here. It's super expensive. But it's definitely been worth it with the internet and the provisioning. Uh-oh, it's getting cold. Do you think we'll get some rain?
I don't know. It's been raining all day. So hopefully it doesn't rain.
Okay. This is a cool question. I don't know if you guys have thought about it. Brian Hartley from YouTube says, greetings from Tampa, Florida. How do you guys deal with a sponsor, such as a clothing retailer, like the sun shirts you guys wear and talk about? And essentially, we actually don't have sponsors for our shirts and clothing. We found that working with clothing sponsors is a little bit difficult because they're so big. But what I did for our first sponsor was SailRite, and I just sent them like a 3-page long email begging them for sponsorship, and it was super awkward and really bad. But they believed in us, and they were our first sponsor. They sent us a free sewing machine in exchange for just doing videos about my experience learning how to sew. And we still work with them, and they give us a discount on all of our products, which is freaking awesome. But yeah, essentially for sponsors, I just reach out to sponsors that we really like their products, and we know we would use their product anyway.
Or we already do use it.
Yeah, or we already do. Like Keen's, for example. We love Keen's, and then Doug Cole actually got in touch with us because he watches our YouTube channel and said, can I send you a couple of pairs of shoes? And I said, yes, please. But let's see what else. Like our wind generator. When we were looking for our wind generator, we did a lot of research to figure out which one we wanted. And then before pulling the trigger, we reach out to them via email, and I send them a press kit. And just talk about, kind of like our stats, our YouTube stats, our Facebook stats, our growth projections, and say, we would love to work with you as a sponsor in exchange for, we can mention you in our videos, we can put you in our splash screen, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Real quick, Brock Taylor has a great point. It says, get a $20 DC to DC converter off Amazon to drive your laptop directly from 12 volt up to the needed DC voltage for your laptop. This will save a ton on efficiency. So Brock, my question is, we had that set up in the past, and a laptop died on us, and they said the motherboard fried. The people we were talking with, and I did not trust them at all, but they were like a computer repair place, and they're just so, I don't know.
Yeah, they were like, your computer is fried.
Dude,
and they
she
started
smiled.
laughing.
She's like, your computer is dead. And I was like,
thank you. This is devastating.
This is terrible for me. You know what I mean? She's like, anyway, did not trust them one bit. And they were saying the issue was we were using a DC to DC converter and something having to do with the pure sine wave. And so that's why we went with a pure sine wave inverter. And so Brock Taylor, or if anybody else out there, if you have any comments on, is pure sine wave even a thing that computers need? Is that voodoo magic? Should I just go with the DC-DC converter? Let me know what you guys think, because it's very possible that computer that we had just would have died anyway.
Right.
So.
I think we had 2 computers die, though. Yours died, then mine died. So we were like, something fishy's happening. And we haven't had any issues with these 2 inverters.
Yeah. And then Lucas McDonald just asked the exact same question.
Cool.
So there you go.
Let me do some more PayPal shout-outs. Moonwalks for Less LLC, Mark Bowers, Steve Jennings, Chad Saxton, F. Eugene Krause Jr., Daniel Wasserman, Ryan F. Robert Miller, Doug Schnelzer, Cape Setups LLC.
Schnelzer.
Rod Halpert. Man, I want your name to be Jim Halpert. Virginia Timon, Edward Howe, Daniel Rice, Brad Scott again, and John Robinson. Woo!
Nice
All
one.
right.
So we got a couple people. My Humboldt Life says dirty power will wreck your computer. Carrie Cheshire says pure sine wave is the way to go. So yeah, very good. And then Billy Newport, that's BS. Pure sine wave is for AC 110 only. DC, there is no wave. It's DC. Okay, what do you guys have to say about that? Because, I mean, that makes sense to me. Simulated sine wave is not for use with sensitive electronics. Pure sine wave only, buds. Yeah, I mean, because that does make sense. Jeff Erdman says DC does not use sine wave. It is only due to the 60 cycle hertz IE. Yeah, for example. Boy,
Wow.
I'm going to have to read these afterwards.
That's like that's a very 50-50 topic.
Yeah.
Do you want to get the super chat ready and I can do the drawing?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So, and in fact, the super chat is ready. So,
Okay.
all right, guys. So this is it. This is the big moment. So we're gonna see who is going to win the free T-shirts.
Wait, while you're getting that ready, I just want to give a couple more shout outs from super chat. Sails and Tails, good name. We went from a 30-foot boat to a 38-foot boat, and it was like going from a studio apartment to a 2-bedroom penthouse. Thanks for the vid, buds.
I believe
cool.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
I
imagine.
believe
I
that.
don't know what I would do on if we got a bigger boat. Like the first couple days, I'd probably be like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Susan Osterland, thank you very much. Blue-Eyed Sailor, good name, says, keep living the dream. Check us out. We definitely will. All right, cool. Go.
Okay, here we are, guys. So we are going to just find the person's name through this process. We basically have numbers in this hat. Desiree is going to pick the number. We're just going to count that many, numbers down the list
Of
that,
$5.
of $5 or more contributors, and then they will be the winner. And then whoever it is, get in touch with us, and we will. How do they get in touch with us?
Send me a message on email, des@projectatticus.com.
There you go.
With your t-shirt size and your mailing address.
Yep, that's it. Okay, cool. Well, we got a lot more. You may have AC riding on the DC, and this will destroy a computer. DC to DC is great. Make sure of the quality. Boy, there's a lot. Okay, sorry. I'll get back to that. Okay, you ready, bud?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. So she's
First
going to pick two numbers.
Number is
There's 0 through 9.
8.
Okay,
What do we
8.
do? What if we don't have 80 people?
Yeah, we probably won't. So
Dang it, we
well,
didn't think
we just
about
gotta
that.
do it again. We'll just have to. No. 8,
Oh, 8.
and then
Oh, to keep the 8 out. Okay. 8.
no, and then just pick. Let's see if we have 80 people. Sorry, guys. This is less than ideal, but we'll just look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Well, I think
13,
you might have
14,
80.
15, 16, 17, 18,
I'll go
19,
for another
20,
question.
21, 22,
Where do you archive all of your raw footage? We've gotten into these, I think you pronounce it LaCie, hard drives. Got one right here. And this is where we keep our photos. So we don't have any of our footage in the cloud, which is probably a really bad idea. We'd like to, initially when we started Project Atticus, we wanted to do like a documentary of, like a full feature film. So it'd be cool to have that footage, but
Well, we do have all of our footage.
It's physical,
so,
but
like
if
all of it.
Right, but
So-
if anything happened to it physically, we'd be screwed.
But
so.
this is the way to go because this is shockproof, water resistant. They're hard drives. There's a disc in them, but they're not too expensive. So I'm real happy with these LaCie discs drives.
Do we have 80?
We have 45.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you draw a 5 or above,
Put it back.
put it back.
Okay.
Exactly.
I saw that. 2. Okay, good.
Okay, good.
20. I really have to go to the bathroom. The intense is killing me. 24. Okay.
Okay. 24. Here we go. So Desiree, entertain
Okay.
while I
Let's
do
see.
this.
Jordan, do you think you will ever release a behind-the-scenes or blooper reel? We've got a ton of behind-the-scenes footage, and we try to figure out what to do with it. Right now, we release it to our patrons on our Facebook private group. So we've got that going. What do you think about a long blooper reel?
So I have the winner here,
Okay.
but I'm going to release the name after this answer that. So we do have like deleted scenes that we've been kind of holding on to, and we've been kind of bouncing the idea around that we might start releasing them to like our patrons only Facebook page. We'll see what we end up doing, because it actually takes a decent amount of time to like export that and everything and like handle it, but it takes a lot of data. And so we've been mostly uploading videos using like right now we're using cellular data, and that costs quite a bit of money. And so if we're doing a live stream or an episode, it makes sense. If we're just releasing kind of, bloopers and stuff, it's a little harder to justify at that point. Okay, so our lucky winner is Eric Jones.
Nice, congratulations.
Congratulations, Eric Jones. So,
Awesome, and he said he sent us something from PayPal, so awesome.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, send me an email at des@Project Atticus, DES@Project Atticus, and we'll get in touch with you.
Right.
Also, while we're getting the PayPal thing ready, Brad Scott was wondering if we have spinning drives or standard SSD.
We do spinning drives for all of our external hard drives, and then I have on my computer, I've got a split drive set up. So I've got 2 terabytes of spinning drives and then 1 terabyte of SSD. And the reason for that is I like to have like my working footage that I'm actually editing on the SSD because it's a lot faster. And so I basically, whatever I'm editing in that episode, I pull that from wherever in the world we've got it, put it on my SSD, edit it, and then delete it off the SSD, and then it continues to exist on the hard drives. That way there's no bottleneck in the editing process with the hard drives.
Okay, PayPal.
Okay.
You do the first number, I'll do the second. Or you can do both.
Oh, I better count the number actually, real quick. Sorry, guys.
Okay, I'll answer another question. Let's see. Are you planning to come to Brazil? And anytime you'll be my guests. That would be awesome. That was from Vinicius Baltazar Cisne de Oliveira. Oh my gosh, great name. I probably butchered it. But as of right now, we don't have plans to go to Brazil, but it sounds lovely, and our plans change quite often. So if we do end up in Brazil, we will be at your door. Also, we've got a super chat from J Sans Vlog. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm going to answer another question. I'm going to go over to Lynn Party's questions, which we didn't actually get to, unless you guys have other questions.
Okay, real quick. 53.
53, okay.
53. So if it's a 6 or higher,
Okay. Do you want me to do it?
then we redo it. I'll do the first one. Okay, here we go. What do we got? 0.
Oh, okay, low number.
Ooh. All right. You're up.
Oh, I keep on looking. Put it that way.
You're such a cheater.
I know. Can't help it. 8.
Okay, so number 8. That makes my job easier. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. John Kenyon.
All right.
You are the big winner of the
Yay.
Atticus t-shirt.
And for all of you guys who have donated today, thank you very much. It means the world to us, and it will help us get this boat ready to cross the Pacific, which is our big, big goal.
That's right, and we do have a lot of projects coming up here. Like I was saying before, it's probably going to take us the full, probably 6 months to get all the work done that we want to do. And there's a lot of exciting projects. Like, I'm really excited to try to potentially convert our head sail configuration into roller furled Solent rig. And so that should be exciting. And we'll be doing videos on all of it. So we really appreciate you guys kind of hanging with us on these fundraiser style live streams. I know they're not as they get a little bit more tedious than a non-fundraising live stream, but we really appreciate it. It's really going towards that Pacific Crossing actually happening. So thanks, guys. So again, John Kenyon and Eric Jones, congratulations, guys. Get a hold of us, and we will get you that t-shirt.
Cool. And then Dan Ellerby says, I'm getting a couple of Atticus tees for my wife and me. Awesome. And also, if you guys have Project Atticus swag, take a picture of it and send it to us so we can put it in an episode. I really like doing that. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. Couple quick questions. SV Loloda di Argento. Sorry. SV Loloda di Argento. Says, reach out to Lassie for a sponsorship. They can set you up with a high capacity NAS that is even fire resistant.
What?
That would be cool. We could look into that.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, and in fact, that is something that going forward we may do, is getting one of those like basically a server. You know what I mean? Like getting a server, and then whenever we have good internet, just like dump all of our footage to our home server, and then it can be like off the boat entirely. But that's way in the future. As of right now, like these actually do a decent job, and then when we fill them up, and basically when we see our parents, we'll just be like, here you go, put this under the bed, please.
In a waterproof compartment.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Dave, you're amazing. Thank you for helping me sift through some interesting questions and stay organized. And thanks for being awake right now over in Ireland. You are amazing. And thank you guys for donating to our refit plans. If any of you guys are going to be at the Annapolis Sailboat Show, look for us at Lynn Party's booth. We look forward to meeting you in person. And like I said, I am going to try to organize, hopefully, a sale with a bunch of our viewers, but we'll see if we can make that happen. I feel like it's going to be kind of a crazy week, but we'll see what we can do.
Real quick before we go on, Gutshaw is asking, is there a meetup in Annapolis? So just real quick for people that missed that, it is important. We should definitely mention it again. This October, the Annapolis Sailboat Show, we will be there. We'll be kind of not sharing, but Lynn Party has been gracious enough to let us hang out at her booth so that we can have like a home base to meet people. So if you would like to meet up with us in the States this year, check out the Annapolis Sailboat Show in October, and head over to Lynn Party's booth to try and find
we will
us.
try to have a meetup. Definitely have a meetup. I'm going to try to get the meetup on a boat sailing, but if that doesn't happen, then it'll be on land.
Yeah. So even though, and for those of you that missed the very beginning, our plans have changed. We're now going to either Panama or the Rio Dulce for our refit. I think we're both leaning towards Panama, but we got some real soul searching to do about that, because there's definitely pros and cons for both. But either way, we're going to fly back to the States once, if not twice, over the course of the summer and fall. And so we'll be planning some kind of get-together. So definitely stay tuned for that.
And I didn't see my mom on here today, but I always miss shouting out to her. So, Mom, if you're watching, I love you. Hello.
She was here. And in fact,
no.
I saw, because she was saying, like, don't have a baby outside the United States. And I was going to say something about that. Sorry, Mrs. Golan.
Yeah, so sorry, Mom. But
sorry about the baby thing.
Yeah. No, sorry for not seeing your comment. I love you. Appreciate you always being on our live streams. And I have to pee so bad.
Okay.
So we better head out.
Sounds good.
But thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. We're going to try to do a live stream as soon as we get to either Honduras or Panama or maybe Cuba. Probably won't be going back to Cuba to get to the United States. So probably either Panama or Honduras. So we will talk to you guys soon.
And I will figure out how YouTube now lets me stop the stream.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom so bad.
Hold on.
Well, I might as well answer one more question while you're figuring that out.
Oh, figured it out.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We'll catch you guys
All
later.
right, see you guys next time. Cheers.